Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite Dark Sorcerer here. Welcome to Dark Sorcery. Today, I'm going to discuss demonolatry. Specifically tonight, I'd like to discuss the 7 Lords of Sin. Okay? But I also want to discuss a little bit about demonolatry. Okay? A lot of individuals tend to get into demonolatry because they either want to gain beneficial applications from working with them, or they are doubters that really don't have a clue what they're doing. These types we refer to commonly as amateurs, okay, neophytes, acolytes even. Now, those who get into any form of occultism really don't have a clue what they're doing, but they've also got the wrong mind frame when getting into demonolatry to begin with. They don't have a clue about setting a goal, about what they expect from the root working with a being. What kind of being do you want to work with? Are you looking for a quick fix, or are you looking for a long-term relationship with that being? Okay. Now, what's interesting to note is that since I started working with demonology again, and I've been really working with my, a new grimoire, putting together foundations and orders and stuff. So kind of just breaking it down, kind of like a who's who type thing. And ranking systems, showing you the ins and outs of the hierarchy of the underworld, just by the known systems of demonic hierarchy. Okay, from Solomon's Goetia to that of Dante's Inferno, you name it, it's there. Even whites. Okay, so it's all there. You just got to be able to look at it and kind of spell it out, especially if you're going by, say, Michelle Belanger's book, Dictionary of Demons, or that of Rosemary Ann Gully's Encyclopedia of Demons and Demonolatry. There's so many different books and resources out there, material-wise, from grimoires to educational aspects of each and every individual, from the Dictionary of Angels, A to Z by Gustav Davison, to Angels A to Z. There's so many things out there that you can just go out and get for yourself and learn. Outside of that, you have Google. Google is a great resource to delve into various different systems and to compare root workings when it comes to angelic or demonic beings. Now, in this case, I'm working with the various different orders, okay? The 7 crown princes of the air found in the 6th and 7th books of Moses, okay? Going into the 7 Olympic spirits found in Dictionary Inferno, even that of another well-known grimoire. Working with the 7, the 9 infernal gatekeepers, the 9 kings of the Goetia. Working with the 4 sub-princes, otherwise known as the 4 cardinal directions. Okay, and down to the 7 crowned princes themselves of sin. Okay, these are also known as the 7 lords of archdemons. Some of them were actually angelic beings before they were demonized. Okay, and made out to be demonic lords. One used to be a human who ruled over Sodom and Gomorrah, and after his demise and entrance into the underworld was elevated to an archlord. Okay, at least these are the stories and the myths that are out there. From the Munich manuscript, you even have the 36 deacons of destruction. Okay, And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can work with out there to actually break down and study. Now, over the last 5 months, I've been working with one individual, okay, at a time. One individual. I started out with Mammon. I went into Asmodeus. I went into Lucifer. I went into Beelzebub. I've worked with 5 out of 7 of the archlords, the archdemons. Okay, these fiends known as the lords of sin. And there's been some massive ups and downs in my own life. Okay, it's been downright scary. Okay, how these beings can really affect your world, especially if you don't pay attention or to learn from them. And if you do ask for something, they will deliver on it. And they will literally fuck up your life if you're not careful. Okay, if you're not open to what they're doing and what you ask of them, they will literally fuck up your life. And so, anyways, like I said, I've been working with these beings. You know, I started working with Mammon again, about 5 months ago. And Seeking Serpent 6, how you doing? 5 months ago I started working with Mammon. Again, I haven't worked with him since Tucson, Arizona. That's a whole nother lifetime ago. So I mean, yeah, I worked with him. I started working with him again, and I ended up living on the streets, not in one city, but 2 different cities back in the day. And he taught me quite a bit. So when I started working with these 7 lords of sin, I really wanted to start out with him again, just to see what he would do. And every week, I was just about broke. I was literally broke. On the verge of being evicted. Me and my family were about to be evicted. We're about to lose one of the 2 cars that we had that have that that we were paying off, rent to own type thing. And it was interesting because of the fact that Mammon's known for destruction. He's known for he's really he's a very demanding spirit. Demanding in a very, very greedy type way. Perhaps that's why his sin is greed, you know? He just takes and takes and takes just to see how much you're willing to take before you've had enough. It was really a time of trying. It was a very patience. It was a matter of patience. It was a matter of how should I say this? It was one of those times where you really need to be on the path of prudence. You don't want to come off as cocky, haughty, or arrogant because he'll whoop your ass. But at the same time, you don't want to be disrespectful to him and say, "Hey, I've had enough." But when you open up yourself up to him and into any of these beings, and you say, "Hey, I'm looking to elevate myself. I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to evolve. What can you do for me?" And then you start seeing everything going down. My hours, about 5 months ago were very chaotic. My boss had just had a heart attack. He was out for like 3 or 4 months. And what's interesting to note is that it was a very emotional time because of the fact that my hours were all over the place. I was getting more than what I need that I could handle, but at the same time, you're either making too much or you were making too little. you know. So you were trying to find that right balance, but yet it was that constant battle, that constant fight. So you kind of had that sense of greed of what you were trying to do, and it was like my way or the highway. That's basically what Mammon does. When he gets in there, he's gonna try you. He's gonna test you. He's gonna break you down to the point where you're about to say, "Fuck it, it's time to go." You know what I'm saying? It's time to move on to something else. And when you hit that time, when you hit that time, that's when shit gets done. You know, I think it really clicked when I finally had that enough. And I was at work, I was at work one day, and I got into a confrontation with a coworker. And it was funny because we're fighting. It was over stupid shit, literally stupid shit. It was over a fucking cart, okay, a cart. It was just sitting there. I was gonna be doing, boxes of Joe, and it was, and she wanted to use it for, dishes. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it was just one cart, and we both got into it. A team lead got involved, the ASM got involved, and I didn't work with that girl ever since. So it was kind of interesting where you finally have that enough, and you just one finger. It was just like super strength takes over, and you toss that fucking cart away like it was nothing. It was like a feather to gold, you know. And it was funny just how that happened, you know. But it was just like that breaking point when you've had enough, and all of a sudden things start, people start paying attention. And you see this throughout history. It takes something tremendous, like, say, Oklahoma or Las Vegas, perhaps that community, uprising over a white officer shooting a black kid, something like that. Maybe even this thing with Trump, to bring people's attention to the issue at hand. And that's basically what Mammon does. Okay, he's got that. He's a master of greed. He's gonna bring you to that point where you're gonna have enough, and it's just like, fuck you. I'm done. You know. And then like I said, I mean, I went from him to working with Azazel, and Azazel's known as the teacher of witchcraft. He's he's the teacher of alchemy, herbalism, through angelology. He was one of the watchers, and he brings this stuff to the table to where he's going to show you new methods. He's going to show you how dark you can literally go. As a dark arts practitioner, your descent into the underworld, into the abyss, is something that you have to choose for yourself how far you're willing to go. And when you've lost all that ambition, that strive to hold things back, and you're into one of those vengeful moods, you're going to go into the darkest reaches of yourself to learn truly about who you are, what you're about. More so when you commune with him, he's going to be showing you and teaching you things about herbs, about plants, about practice, different combinations of things that you as a practitioner haven't thought of. Sometimes it's a matter of going into the hermit state of mind where you just go off in your own way and, separate from your family, you separate from your friends, you kind of just take that back pedal to the point where you're solitary. There's nothing outside of that. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to deal with anybody. And he's going to start teaching you at that point to the point where you become the Hierophant and eventually the magician, the lord of the magicians, the lord of your domain. And it's ironic that around that same time, I was also working within necromancy. So, I mean, the methods of influence within herbs, within blood sorcery, really played a huge effect here. And my practices started taking a shift. This is around the time when things were really clicking within necromancy and practices again. I really delved into it, and I really started getting into the Mazagir Cabal system that way. Azazel was really instrumental in that. And, I started looking into Zazazel, but the two mythos really didn't add up because of the fact that Zazazel used to be a necromancer before being elevated into the stature of Lord of Caractères. Whereas Azazel, on the other hand, according to angelology and demonology, depending on which route you take, was a watcher angel who made a deal with Shemyaza, who in return was working with a much older demonic force. Okay. And he shared the forbidden knowledge with mankind. Okay, specifically that of alchemy with man and teaching women how to paint their faces in the art of seduction. Okay. Now, what's interesting to know is that after this, I started working with Asmodeus. Asmodeus is the demon of lust and wrath, and to see where the practices ended up, not just in my own mental state, it was like something was challenging me to deal with my emotions within the feelings, the frustrations that were going on in my life. And trust me, it was wrathful. It was like the, well, apocalypse, both with dealing with work and my personal life. And this literally started getting into things with my housing, okay, dealing with my neighbors, dealing with the landlord, dealing with my son's mother, and the fact that she's, well, let's just say it's a lot of things that played into that. And I'm not going to get into it here. But let's just say it was a very emotional, trying time to the point where I basically went into a very dark time. But it was also something where my lust towards the dark arts really took off. I started spending more time in my altar room. I started spending more time summoning these beings and communing both within research, but also within spiritual conjuration of the Sadi, the Drelith, the Draconic, the Witches of the Depths, Zazazel, and many other aspects. It wasn't just from the workings of the Mesogira Cabal system, but it was also within demonology and angelology, working, doing the evocations of demonic to the evocation of psychic awareness, psionics, to becoming the adept within the Mesogira Cabal system. And it was very, very interesting because this actually led me into Lucifer. Now, Lucifer is known as the morning star, Phosphorus, if you go into ancient Greek. And what's interesting to note is that he's the heir of enlightenment for a reason. Now, as the heir of enlightenment goes, I started, after months, you got to remember that the last year, I have completely dedicated myself to the study and practice of the Mazachir Cabal system, specifically that of necromancy. So it wasn't until I started calling on Lucifer and working with Lucifer again that things really began to click. I started seeing connections and I started delving into the mythos. And it was very, very enlightening, but it was also very exciting. The things that I dug up on the Elven going into the Fae folklore, from the Sidi or Sith, the people of the mounds, to that of the Celestials and the demonic, the hermit or the hobbit, if you wish, depending if within the Elven folklore, going into Germanic, Norse, Celtic, Scottish, going into that of European, and even going into Slavic witchcraft in that general, region. And then on top of that, the draconic. When I started seeing this European style black dragon dealing with success, power, even, which goes along with black magic and becoming being a dark sorcerer. So I mean, all of these things, kind of played into a huge, huge thing for me in my practice. So I mean, seeing where how Lucifer, enlightens and shines his light on certain topics, it will lead you amongst the path working. Very, very inspirational, very, very powerful. So I do recommend that if you work with him, let him lead you. Okay. And this actually brings me to Beelzebub. Okay. Beelzebub has been the most trying out of all seven so far. Okay. He's the fifth one that I've worked with. And what's interesting to note is this month alone, I lost a tooth. I became physically sick to the point where I wanted to call out of work and I couldn't. I was so tired, physically exhausted, and it was just like all ambition and all aspects of myself were just gone. I had been worn down that far by these five lords, okay, of sin. And what's interesting to note about Beelzebub is he's also known as the Lord of Pestilence, okay, gluttony, okay, the gluttony aspect, the Lord of Pestilence, which goes along with the physical symptoms that I was feeling of sick. I'm talking having the runs. I'm talking about puking your guts out, running a fever without having a fucking cause about what's inflicting it, what's causing it. We couldn't find anything because my son's mother and I, we'd eaten different things. We drank different things. So we haven't been around anybody that's been sick. So why do we have similar symptoms, but yet everything is different, but still the same? You know what I'm saying? So that actually went from there into a state of emotional rarity. Okay, when I say rarity, it's like picture picture breaking a tooth. Okay, picture breaking a tooth and exposing that nerve. Okay, that nerve just lighting up, especially when you put salt on it, leaving yourself completely without ambition, without any sense of, how should I say this, constraint upon your filter for hatred, for venomous words, for that darkness that is coming out of you. There was no limit to it. It was just, you enjoyed it, you let it happen, and it just came out. If those of you who like, DC comics or DC type movies like Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, Justice League in general. Think of Superman with the different kryptonites. Red makes him emotional, not uncaring. And in this state, that's exactly what it was. It was just like there was no emotion, no feeling. It was just pure demonic energy coming out of me. It was like you just tapped into that darkness, that abysmal force, to the point where it's just oozing out of you. And as a friend of mine, a coworker once told me, it's one thing to be told about it, but it's a whole nother thing to see it. Yesterday, the last 24 to 48 hours, I've seen a huge difference to the point where I already had a shitty day at work the day before yesterday. And then the mic went on the outside machine where people place their orders, to family drama, being accused of doing things that you didn't do, to finding out that you didn't get that two-bedroom apartment that you were hoping for. You've been denied yet again, and you end up going to work. You're already pissed off. You're already um, you're already physically and emotionally tired and drained to the point where you start zoning out at the screen, and then somebody says your name, and you look and they literally jump back like they just jumped out of their skin. Like shit, it's one thing to be told, but it's a whole nother issue when they actually see it. And basically that's what I mean by having that exposed nerve, where you have no ambition, where you have no muffle to muffle that aspect. That's what Beelzebub really has done over the last couple of weeks, especially with me in general. So I mean, it wasn't until I saw a video with E.A. Coetting that talked to him, discussed the pestilence aspect, that I ended up putting two and two together on that aspect, and it was like shit. Now I understand what's been going on. And then last night I ended up doing a Chiromancy summoning. And it was very interesting because of the fact that today I ended up spending like 4.5 hours in my altar room just last night. I came out completely refreshed. It was like a lot of these barricades are back up automatically. I'm most of the way balanced again. My equilibrium's back in play. And then I came out. My son's in bed. His mother's out here typing on her computer. Watching that mad Texan guy on her phone, laughing her ass off. I go to work today, and it's like nothing's affecting me. It's literally nothing. People are stressed out around me because we were two people down at work. I'm completely calm. I'm a little bit off balance. I started the day off a little bit out of balance. My equilibrium was a little bit off, but yet it was like everything was just back up. This is what Beelzebub does. He teaches you, he guides you, he texts, he creates you, and he tears you down, but he also rebuilds you. So because I've been working a lot with these guys, I've also been leaning towards working with Leviathan for the sixth Lord of Sin, the Lord of Envy, to see what he's willing to do for me. So if you're willing to evolve, if you're willing to learn about yourself, to be recreated or reborn, the birth and rebirth type aspects, I recommend working with these 7 Lords of Sin. Some of them were archangels. Some of them were watchers. Some of them were just angels to begin with before becoming demonized. Asmodeus is a mythos out there that he was the Lord of Sodom and Gomorrah, who upon his deathbed was elevated after entrance into the underworld to an archdemon of wrath and lust, which was very interesting. And just to see that. But I wanted to get under here and just say, hey, this is what I've been up to the last 5 months. This is what I've been doing. This is what I've experienced. This is my personal experiences here, just with these 5. And I'm going to run down them again. Mammon, Azazel, Asmodeus, Lucifer, and Beelzebub. Okay? That leaves Belphegor, And you get it, Leviathan, okay, to work with. So if you want to see where they lead you and what they're willing to do for you, open yourself up to them. Let them do the work. All you have to do is be willing to go through it. If you're willing to experience the loss, if you're willing to experience the pain, the suffering, and to go for it, you'll be beneficial on the other end. It will be fruitful on the other end. So I really do recommend them to you. But this is also just one of many orders that I've come across. Okay. You have the four cardinal directions, the four subdemons or archdemons. You have that of the seven Olympic spirits, the nine kings, the nine infernal gatekeepers, the seven spirits of crown princes of the air, okay, and such. That's not even getting into the 36 deacons of destruction, the infernal knights, the knights, getting into the different ranking systems, okay, without even getting into the ministers themselves. So, I mean, there's a lot out there. You just got to be willing to seek them out and to go through it. All right. So, with that said, I hope this has been intellectual. I hope it's been enlightening. And until next time, this Dark Sorcerer is out. Have a good night, and I will see you in a few days. All right. Good night, everyone.